Welcome to Fast Friday. Not one, but two races from the Finger Lakes region of upstate New York. Hello, everybody. I'm John Hindhoff, and in the Haggerty Global Broadcast Centre with me is Jeremy Shaw. Shea Adam is our VP Racing Fuel Pit and Paddock reporter. The races around here started on the public roads, on the streets. It got a bit too dangerous and a bit too scary and, sadly, a bit tragic. So, way back when, this was a circuit that was built with the idea to pay homage to the road races around this area in the past. And you know what? The good burgers of Watkins Glen did a pretty good job on this 3.5 mile circuit that is built into this green and pleasant land. The drivers love it because this is a challenge for them as much as it is for the engineers on the cars, for the tyre engineers from Michelin as well. And you know you're in the presence of greatness, don't you, in the presence of history, when you're not just talking about corner numbers, you have names. The backstrip, the inner loop, the outer loop, the toe and the heel of the boot. It's all here in the 3.4 miles and 11 corners of Watkins Glen International. Down through the years, it's hosted about every sort of motor race that it could do, including 20 uninterrupted years of Formula One and the US Grand Prix, of course. Today, it's all about sports car racing. And I'm delighted to say that if you settle back right now, you will have the opportunity to see and hear all of it. The cars are already rolling at the moment. We are back, Jeremy Shaw, to a standard in Michelin Pilot Challenge terms, 120 minutes, 2 hours, if you will, and in qualifying, phenomenal run by the BMW of Turner Motorsport and Dylan McAvan, who's claimed pole position. Jeremy.
Tremendous job by Dylan. You know, he's been he's a former champion in this series, but remarkably in his 54th start, his first ever pole position. But you know, the Turner Motorsport BMW team, I mean, they're on a roll right now, and he's going to be sharing that number 95 car with somebody called Bill Oberlin, who's been pretty successful. He won the WeatherTech race last weekend for Turner Motorsport BMW, extending his record as the most successful driver in top-line American sports car race with win number 64. He's also had 16 wins in the Michelin Pilot Challenge, so that pair can get it done.
And share alongside him the Porsche, Ryan Hardwick taking the start in the number 16 Wright Motorsport car. This is just the one Wright Motorsport car this weekend, because the IMSA WeatherTech Challenge, obviously WeatherTech race, is only a round of the Sprint Challenge. But John Wright and the rest of the team here and rewarded with a front row start.
And as you rightly said, the Porsche, the only Porsche in the field this weekend for Wright Motorsport, Ryan Hardwick and Jan Halen, they missed the round at Daytona, which moved them out of the championship hunt, in effect. A pair of second-place finishes and then a fourth last week. This is the car to watch in the GS field.
Already a spinner, and it's one of the Hyundais. It is the number 19 that has gone around on the formation lap, and it needs the help of the AMR safety team. And that's the Rory van der Steur and Denis Dupont van der Steur Racing Veloster. That car facing the wrong direction, and given the amount of liquid that's on the circuit, that's may have had some contact there, and this could delay the start of the race. Not really sure what has happened there, because that's very unusual. I'm guessing it was Rory van der Steur, by the way, behind the wheel. I'm guessing an awful lot of weaving to get the back tyres in particular warmed up and up to temp and pressure, and maybe that car has been looped around. I'll get you some details on that in a moment. Shea Adam is already speaking to the team, and even if the Cadillac safety car stays out, the 2 minutes will start at the end. The 2 hours will start at the end of. If it were 2 minutes, that would be a sprint, wouldn't it? The 2 hours will start at the end of this lap, according to race control. So the 2 hours is now underway, and effectively we've started the race behind the safety car because of that spin, Jeremy. We are in to the Sahlen's 120 at the Glen.
We are, and not the way we wanted to start, unfortunately. No. And very unfortunate for that too. I think that's Samir Gandhi seems to be making his way into the pits as well. There should be a split start here with the TCR cars lining up behind the GS machines. But it was hard to envisage what might have happened in that car. It was certainly pointing in a very strange direction.
Yes,
and it seemed to be fluid on the racetrack, but that was past where the car was parked.
As if it'd come back to that. It maybe bounced off something and got back to there. It was coming
backwards.
into turn 7, yes. It was coming back towards turn 7. It was just before turn 7, the toe of the boot. Jeremy, it's the Michelin Pilot Challenge. Are we surprised that anything that could happen in MPC? Let's be honest.
No, you raise a point there, but we certainly expect the unexpected is kind of what we've become used to in this series. Brief on board there, by the way, with Alfredo Nasri from the Dominican Republic in that number 14, the sole Riley Motorsport Supra GT4 in this race. What a super job he did in qualifying. I think that we haven't really seen what that car is capable of. Julian Santero from Argentina was supposed to be driving that car last weekend, but unfortunately wasn't able to get into the country, had some visa difficulties, so he was replaced. But this weekend, it's none other than Pierre Klein-Ubing, I believe, who's going to be sharing that car with Nadri. Pierre, he's made exactly 100 starts in this championship, but the last one was way back in 2018 at Road Atlanta. The 46-year-old from Coconut Creek, originally from Brazil, but a former 3-time winner in this championship and a multiple champion in all sorts of different series, including the ST Championship as it was back in 2012 here. So very successful driver, and great to see Pierre Klein-Ubing back with opportunity. And that car is certainly going to be one to watch, I believe, in the closing stages. I don't know how much time Pierre's had in the car. Not much, I think, but it's not going to take him long, I think, to get back in the groove.
Rory van der Steur is under tow from one of the AMR Chevy IMSA safety trucks with damage to the left front of that car. So there has been contact. So my guess, and it was just a guess, about what has happened. Oh no, the whole of front of the car's got. He's been into the wall hard. He's been into the wall very right. Okay, for my money, what's happened there? He's been weaving around, lost the back end of the car, hit the guardrail, and then bounced back onto the track. But why that was so far down the track, as Jeremy said, or if you wait up the track, further round the track. There we go, Hindhoff. Try and describe it for those who can't see. Further round the track, I'm not entirely certain. So we are in the race. And what this also means, Jeremy, is that when we come back to green, now this is at the discretion of race control. So we might see a side-by-side restart because it is the first start. It might be line astern, and we'll only really see that when the cars are coming through at turns 9, 10 and 11. We've seen both done in the past.
Indeed we have, yeah. I think it'll most likely, particularly it's the sun's out, it's a nice, well, apart from down turn 7, it's a nice clean track. I think it'll probably be a double file start, but you're right, we could kind of go either way there. What a shame for Denis Dupont and Rory van der Steur, who indeed was due to start this car after a good qualifying position, 5th place on the grid for young Rudy, but it's all gone wrong. They've had no luck at all, that team, this season.
None whatsoever. The car is almost clear. We do have two Cadillac safety cars out at the moment. Actually, they are pace cars at the moment, so I can say that and not be told off on the socials on at IMSARadio.com, which is how you get in touch with us here in the Haggerty Global Broadcast Centre, because we will have a split start. And so the GS cars, the GT4 categorised cars, all 19 of them will go first. Owen Trinkler from Team TGM bringing up the field there in a very unusual position in the Chevrolet Camaro. So it'll be BMW from Turner Motorsport, Wright Motorsports Porsche, 95 and 16. Then another great qualifying from Alan Brynjolfsson in the Volt Racing with Archangel Aston Martin Vantage, just ahead of Hugh Plum in the other Team TGM Chevrolet Camaro. Then Russell Ward from Winward Racing in the number 4 Mercedes AMG GT4. The solo Riley Motorsports Toyota Supra is in 6th position on the outside of row 3, or in 6th position if we're following in single file. Sheena Monk Motorsport in action in the McLaren 570S GT4 in 7th position. Vin Barletta in the 96 Turner Motorsport BMW in 8th. Bryce Ward for Winward Racing in the Mercedes in 9th, and rounding up the top 10 in another Mercedes, the metallic cinnamon coloured car, Jeff Mosing. In TCR, Harry Gottsacker in the Hyundai Elantra, number 33. Brian Henderson alongside him, or right behind him, for Atlanta Speedworks and the Honda Civic. Then Parker Chase for another Elantra, the number 98 car. Then it's the Tylers, Tyler Gonzalez starting for Copeland Motorsports in a Veloster. Then the KMW Motorsports with TMR Giulietta in 5th position. The top 6 made up by Chris Miller for the Unitronic JDC Miller Motorsports Audi RS3. And we'll have at least one more lap of yellow. Jeremy Shaw with more on the McLaren.
Yeah, there's been a slight, a couple of slight changes to the balance of performance coming into this race after last weekend. The McLarens have been invited to add 10 kilograms of weight. I
like the way you put that. Have been invited to add. That's very good, Mr. Shaw.
You don't have to. You can not do it and you get thrown out.
Yes, exactly. There's a job for you in the IMSA technical part. We're going to invite you to add some kilos this weekend.
Thank you, sir. And the Aston Martins, they've been adding a bit more weight, 30 kilograms onto the Aston Martins. Both those two cars were super fast last weekend. The number 3 McLaren, which had a great run last week to finish in 3rd position, was a career best for Spencer Piggott, who's sharing that car with Sheena Monk. Sheena had a really good lap going yesterday in qualifying. She was actually fastest, I think, through the first sector, which is through turn 1, through the S's down the back straight. Didn't get the lap to complete that lap, but still a really good run. But as I say, the McLaren's carrying a little bit more weight than they were 1 week ago. Also in TCR, the Hondas, which had a clear advantage last week, having been out of whack most of last season, the Hondas weren't competitive. Well, they were very, very competitive here 1 week ago. They completely dominated the race, and they've been added 40 kilos onto the Hondas in TCR for this race. And certainly, judging by the practice, such as it was yesterday, in kind of change of positions and qualifying, the balance seems to be a lot closer now in TCR than it has been for the last race or two. So some tweaks there, and judging by, as I could say, practice and qualifying, it's all pretty close.
Do you know, if I'm going to talk and anybody's actually going to hear me other than myself in my head, I need to fade my microphone up. Finger trouble from Hindhoff in the Haggerty Global Broadcast Centre here. That was Jeremy Shaw with excellent news and information as always. Shea Adam is our VP Racing Field Pit and Paddock reporter. A little bit of cloud bubbling up. Temperatures at the moment not too bad for the engines or the Michelin tyres. 82 Fahrenheit on the track, 66 Fahrenheit in the air. For everyone outside the US, that's 19 Celsius and 28 Celsius. So that track temperature with a bit of sun and UV energy being put into the track is getting up a little bit higher than we might have expected with an air temperature of just 19. Still a relatively new track surface here at WGI, of course, at Watkins Glen International. After this race weekend, we feature the GTs up at the North East Grand Prix on the 16th and 17th of July. That's at Lime Rock Park. And the 1.5 mile bull ring of a circuit, absolutely outstanding as far as competition is concerned, and a very different challenge from what we have here around the 3.4 miles of Watkins Glen International. If you'd like details, go to limerock.com, and if you can't join us, you can of course listen in on imsaradio.com, and if you're outside the US, you can watch on as well. At Lime Rock, it's free parking, under 16s are free, and if you are active military or a veteran, also free entry to that weekend for the GT extravaganza in the Northeast Grand Prix. limerock.com for all the details. Pit caller there last time around, or was somebody just faking me out and looking like they were diving into the pit lane? It was the latter, I think. I presume, Sheer, that the pits have stayed closed here at the start of the race, to which we are already 12 minutes in.
Yeah, the pits have not opened during this sequence, and yet we've got Samir Gandhi running around in last place, being scored as last place overall, as a matter of fact, is save for Michael Herson in the number 11 FCP Euro Mercedes. That car is shown actually a lap down, so I'm wondering if the Mercedes made a dive into the pit lane at some point. But as you rightly say, pits have not opened, so anybody who comes down now will be coming back down once we go to green flag to serve the drive-through penalty.
Still clear up going on because of the fluid that was dropped by the Van der Steur Hyundai. Rory van der Steur getting out of shape on the warm-up lap in the Hyundai Veloster number 19. That car has been dragged away from the scene of the incident just before turn 7, the toe of the boot here at Watkins Glen International. But we've not yet gone to green flag, and we await news from race control as to what's going on down there just before turn 7 in that short run between turn 6 and 7. I'm pretty sure, Sheer, that I saw somebody in the pit lane commit lane, and I think you might have some news on that.
Alan Prosser, the king of the screen grabs, white Mercedes in the pit lane. That would be the 11 FCP Euro, which is now showing with an O next to its name, no longer showing a lap down. But, yep, that will be a lap down eventually because of that drive-through penalty for entering a closed pit.
Yeah, they will have to come back in again when they come to green. Jeremy, I think you saw a car in the pit lane at the end of the first lap as well, which will also have to come through for a drive-through.
Indeed, yeah, I did actually mention that at the time. It was the number 93, a very distinctive car coming down the pit lane, that green and black car. That came in as kind of, we should have been going green. I think it was the end of the first lap. I think maybe it was the end of the first lap. So yes, both of those cars will have to serve penalties before the end. We don't know what was wrong with either of them, and they were both towards the back of the field in any case.
Huge amount of oil dry being put down on the entrance to turn number 7. What we're hearing from race control, and thanks to our colleagues at NASCAR Productions for feeding this to us, Alisa and the rest of the team doing great work again for us this Thursday and Friday, Fast Friday here, making sure we can see all the way around the track. Another 5 minutes of clean-up before we can go green. Awful lot of fluid down there. The drying agent has been spread, then that'll have to be swept away before we can get going. It is on the racing line to turn 7. Yes, you can go down the inside, down the right-hand side, but that's not the racing line, and they'll want to get that cleared away. It looks a bit like Kitzbühel down there at the moment, and the giant slalom, and that will have to be cleared up before we go back to green. So we're losing green flags, and Shea Adam has news on how we will take the green flag as the jet dryer is being used to get rid of the drying agent. How will we come to green, Shea? And don't say not behind the safety car.
Oh, come on.
No.
The Cadillacs are so pretty. No, it will be about 20 minutes later than expected, but it will be a double file start, and it will be separate, thus the two Cadillacs staying out on the track, because in a normal situation, we would have dropped one of the pace cars. It would have just gone into the pit lane and disappeared. But IMSA is saying for safety purposes, they are going to keep the split start in place and keep it with the side-by-side.
Hello to Dave Alcock and to Alan Prosser and to Matt Hawkins and many others tuned in from Europe and around the world in sound and vision. Reminder, if you're in the US listening to us now on RS2 IMSA Radio and you need to move around later on today, our coverage of the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship and the WeatherTech 240 is on XM202, and our colleagues at NBCSN bringing you the live coverage of that. If you're in the US, if you're outside the US in a territory that doesn't have network TV, then go to imsaradio.com, click on the live video button, and we have no breaks in that uninterrupted coverage. I got excited there because the safety car lights are out, and that means we're going green at the end of this lap. We are going to be somewhere in the region of 18 or 19 minutes shy of where we were expected. This is going to make things pretty tasty for the pit stop strategy. We'll get into that in a moment. The field split is complete and beautiful weather at the moment. Sunshine, temperatures up towards 20 Celsius, 28 on the track, and the Cadillac safety car will turn hard right, and it will be left then to Dylan McAvern from Turner Motorsport to go through and take the field down to the green flag with almost 18 minutes elapsed already, and we are racing. Sahlen's 120 at the Glen is underway. The two front row starters are side by side as the Wright Motorsports Porsche and Ryan Hardwick in that light blue car tries to go around the outside of turn one. That's a tough move to pull off, especially at the start of the race, and they're dropping line astern. Turner, Wright, Team GGM, then the Volt Motorsport Aston. It's Hyundai's to the fore at the TCR start, which is just getting going now through turn one and heading to the uphill at turn two. And what a great start from the pole sitter, Harry Gottsager, in the Brian Herder Autosport Hyundai Elantra number 33. He has cleared off from the rest of the field, who are disputing second place in TCR. The front of the field down at turn 6, Jeremy. Not bad at all, and it looked to me as though Parker Chase got through into second position from that start in TCR.
I think so, and Parker Chase is currently ranked third in the championship, only 110, call it 11 in old money, behind Ryan Evans, who leads the championship. But Parker will not be sharing the car this weekend with his regular co-driver Ryan Norman. He indeed is making his NTT IndyCar Series debut at Mid-Ohio. So it's the former champion Gabby Chavez who will be stepping in for Ryan Norman. He will be sharing the number 98 car with Parker Chase. A nice clean start there, and it is Dylan McAvern taking full advantage of that pole position to lead from Brian Hardwick, but Hugh Plum is right there challenging in that third position.
Hello to Justin Henderson, watching the picks on the NBC app, but listening to IMSA Radio audio, finishing his last hour of what he describes as, in quotation marks, work. I know exactly what you're talking about there, Justin. Welcome to the show. I'll keep it down a bit in case the boss is listening. And thanks to Alan Prosser, still a bit of Hyundai splitter stuck under the barrier where Rory van der Steur went in, so it was quite a significant impact to the front of that Hyundai on the formation lap. At IMSA Radio, if you want to get in touch with us, we have 100 minutes of the 120 still to go in the Sahlen's 120 at the Glen. And as they stand, it's BMW from Turner Motorsport, the 95 yellow and blue car that leads side by side into the inner loop. Audi and McLaren. That was the battle further down the field, and the McLaren just about making it in front there. That was Ori Fadani in the AWA number 13, and the McCann Racing Audi, they're disputing 11th and 12th position. But so far, so good in terms of a nice clean start. Now, Jeremy, I said we would have to talk about this. We've had effectively 20 minutes of yellow flag. How is that going to affect the pit strategy and how many pit stops we might see, particularly from the GS cars at the front of the field?
I think this will probably mean that the GS cars can now make it on one pit stop. It'd certainly be fairly close. I think though that they can just about do 50 minutes. I think. In which case that would be good to go to the end of this 2-hour race. So that's certainly going to make things very, very interesting. In TCR, it just kind of opens up their window. They can easily get to the finish on just one pit stop. So they have a much wider window of opportunity during which they can make that stop.
And Shea Adam, remind us please of the minimum drive times, because that is going to be significant as well, particularly if we get another caution in the next 15 or 20 minutes.
Yes, it will, and it's a 40-minute minimum drive time, 40. So the same as last week when it was a 4-hour contest. But the interesting thing, 5 sets of tires for the GS runners, 4 through the TCRs, and none of them have been used because they've been running on wets all weekend. This is the first time this week where they've been on the dry tires. Lots of information gathered from last week's race on the non-wet Michelin tires, i.e. the slicks, but everybody out there right now figuring out if their setup from last week has carried over to this week and how well the cars are handling.
Considerably cooler this weekend, so that should help. It's a very grippy surface here, which is actually good. A lot of people think, Jeremy, that a grippy surface means a lot of wear on the tyres. It's quite the reverse. Because there's grip, the tyres grip, the cars don't slide around, so it's not scraping the rubber from the face of the tyre. So this is all good news for the Michelin tyres this weekend.
Yeah, but gosh, there's some nasty clouds around. In fact, there's a severe weather warning just popped up on my phone for the area. The sun might be shining right now, but there's some awfully dark clouds not too far away to the kind of northwest, I think, of the racetrack as we watch there. A good start by Gavin Ernst, early car number 61, the Roadshagger Racing Audi. He started a little bit down the order in the class after qualifying. He was back in the quite fair way. He's made up 4 or 5 positions since the start of the race. Gavin Ernst, only car number 61. Alfredo Nasri just set the fastest lap of the race in the Toyota in the 4th position, by the way.
Yeah, very good. It was a pretty good outing last weekend for the 2 Toyotas, as it was. Unfortunately, it didn't end well, with one of them in the barriers on the outside of the outer loop. Frank Depew in the pit lane, Shea Adam.
And this is a car that was rebuilt after last week's race, the 71 for Rebel Rock Racing, suffering quite a large crash, actually, where bits and pieces of the car wound up on the track. But it was fully rebuilt on Monday. The car into the pit lane. I'll keep an eye on that one, but it was the same car that was able to be rebuilt. That's what Declan Brennan let us know. Hi, Dex.
Hello, Dex. Also here at the circuit this weekend after a 6-hour drive up to this beautiful region of upstate New York. And for those of you outside the US, when you can, hearty recommendation to come here, not just for the racing. It is a really beautiful area of the country. Great lakes, fishing, water sports, fabulous hospitality, restaurants, the Corning Glass Museum, and then of course you've got all the motorsport heritage around here as well. Big tick on the list of bucket list places to come if you haven't been to this area of the USA once things open up again from Europe. Let's take an update on Frank Depew. Shea, what do you have?
The car is having issues turning left, which is a problem when you come to Watkins Glen, so that's why Frank's come into the pit lane.
Thank you. Yeah. Yes. Some significant left-handers here, of course. Turn 9 and 10 particularly, which are big commitment corners, as well as through the middle of the inner loop as well. For the moment, Dylan McAvan leads by just on a second from Ryan Hardwick and Wright Motorsports. That's the 95 BMW with the white hood, the white bonnet, going into the inner loop now. The sky blue, black and white Porsche in second is under pressure from the Chevy Camaro GT4R, the number 46. That's the mostly grey Team TGM Harry Plum driven car. Then it's Riley Motorsports and the Toyota Super GT4. I really don't need to tell you that the Gazoo Racing colours on that car are mainly white with red and black, and those three cars, Jeremy, battling very hard indeed for second position, whilst down in TCR Harry Gottsacker is away at the front of the field. Parker Chase in second for the 200 Elantras, and then Brian Henderson has got a battle on his hand for third place on down in that blue and yellow Atlanta Speedwerks Honda Civic FK7.
Yeah, some good battling going on there, certainly a little bit down the order. Harry Gottsacker, as you say, just pulled out a little bit of a lead over that four-car train battling for second place. Parker Chase, Brian Henderson, Chris Miller, he's moved up well from the start as well, and Tyler Gonzalez. But up at the front of the field as well is some really good racing, and it's super tight now at the front of the field still, because the previous lap, it was Alfredo Nadri that set the fastest lap of the race. Dylan McAvan then set the fastest lap to complete lap 9, as it was then. Back in 5th position, Russell Ward set a new fastest race lap, and now, as a complete lap 10, Dylan McAvan resets fastest lap of the race. Alan Brynjolfsson, who is in 6th position in the Aston Caliber 7, he goes even faster. Great stuff here.
Brynjolfsson is in a good vein of form at the moment. Come back to that in just a second, because the McCann Racing Audi has just had a wee spin. Didn't hit anything. Michael McCann behind the wheel of that car. Looked like that was coming through turn number 1, and it got the better of him. He was in traffic and was having a battle. Was there a wee touch there with one of the Winward cars? I think there might have been at turn 1. He ends up facing the wrong direction, which is a horrible thing to have happen as they turned into turn 1. Maybe not. He might have just pinched down to the inside of turn 1. We'll leave that for race control to have a look at. But the good news is Michael is back up and racing in that McCann Racing Audi R8 GT4, the red, white and black car. Which looks ridiculously stock, other than the paintwork actually in the rear wing. Meantime, Shea Adam in the pit lane for the Urban Grid Camaro, excuse me, the Rebel Rock Racing car that you were reporting was having handling issues earlier.
Still some work going on to the car. Frank Depew is still in it, although it looks like his gloves are actually, oh no, his gloves are still on. Waiting for some sort of indication from the crew that he'll be able to go back out once again. But he's talking to them on the radio. They've got the passenger side door open and the car is plugged in. But other than that, there's no franticness on the wall. There's no indication of anything being done to the car. As it is now, it looks as if they think they have an idea of what to do. They just don't know how to actually do it. And Frank Depew waving over actually to an IMSA official out the window. He might be getting a little overheated in there too.
I don't think Robin Liddell has had a competitive lap this week, this last 7 or 8 days, because he didn't get in the car at the 4 hours last weekend, and as yet he's not been in here in the race. Alan Brynjolfsson, Jeremy, continues to improve the lap times that he's doing in that Volt Racing by Archangel Aston Martin, another fastest lap of the race.
Indeed so, that's right, a 1:56.35 for that car. The lap record, by the way, was set back in 2019 by the BMW of Devin Jones, 1:54.0. The fastest lap last week was by that number 7 Aston Martin, Trent Hidman, turned at 1:54.85. But of course, since then, the Aston has had to add 30 kilograms of weight. Don't expect to get down to those lap times this afternoon.
Where they're beginning to bubble up around Watkins Glen International, but for the moment we're under sunshine and cloudy, but still blue skies for the moment. Meantime, the Team TGM Camaro is up into second position, and we have our first penalty. Shea Adam.
Bryce Ward for that contact with Michael McCann in the number 8 Audi. Instant responsibility, drive-through penalty for the 57 Mercedes.
Wow, okay. Well, Race Control have more views of that than us. They were side by side into turn 1, and the result is a spin for the Audi. So
yeah, I think honestly, John, the Mercedes kind of turned in, and the Audi was already there.
Yeah.
And I think that's why that penalty will have been called.
Alan Crosser has just sent me the still. Audi got pinched by the Merc, definite contact, bits of bodywork up in the air. See, that's why the collective are so good. Thank you all in the IMSA and Radio Show Limited collective for keeping us up to date. We have eyes everywhere. Under 90 minutes to go now, and it's the Toyota Supra GR GT4 which is trying to make a move at the moment. The Riley Motorsport car in 4th, Ryan Hardwick just fading a little bit back towards that battle for 4th and 5th, with Alan Brynjolfsson not that far behind the Supra. And remember that his dad, Bryce Ward, is getting a penalty, a drive-through, for the contact with the number 8 Audi a few moments ago, Michael McCann, as they were going down. The defence, I think, was fine, and there was plenty of room left on the inside until the Mercedes AMG turned in. I tell you what, you'll speak to Bryce. He'll have a different view of that, let me put it that way. He's on the other side of the car to where that impact was. But there was definitely contact. It resulted in a disadvantage for Michael McCann and McCann Racing's Audi, and that's been called as a drive-through. New fastest lap of the race for the second place car in GS, Jeremy Shaw.
Indeed so. Hugh Plum there, he's managed to, a couple of laps ago, find a way past Ryan Hardwick into second position. He's now just over a second behind the race leader. He's actually a second quicker than Dylan McEwen on that last lap. So the Chevrolet Camaro, car number 46, is on the move as Bryce Ward serves his drive-through penalty. Comes out of 10th position with Bryce.
It's not the end of the world, that, Jeremy. He's lost a lot of real estate. It's a longish lap here, and he won't lose the lead lap in GS, and that's key for what he's got to do before he hands the car over.
Yeah, indeed so. And Ryan Hardwick, he's lost that second position, now falling back from Hugh Plum, who's pulled away quite rapidly over the last couple of laps. And Ryan Hardwick, his last lap was about a half a second slower than his best lap of the race, but he has now got Alfredo Nadri filling his mirrors, and right behind Nadri is Russell Ward and Alan Brynjolfsson, who's charged up there. He's made up a deficit of nearly a couple of seconds to that little group that is battling over third place, headed by number 16 Porsche of Ryan Hardwick.
Yeah, and not often you hear me say this, but it looks like the Wright Porsche and Ryan Hardwick is the cork in the bottle at the moment, and that is very unusual indeed. They're coming onto the front straight now with the darker clouds gathering at that part of the circuit and beginning to take over the view across the start-finish line. Naturally, down the inside into turn one, he's not close enough. Super late braking from Ryan Hardwick in the Wright Cayman. This is the Cayman 718 GT4. Still with the big flat six engine, of course, the GT4. And actually, that little opportunity, perhaps to stick the nose of the Supra down the inside, has actually cost, I think, Nadri a bit of room. Last weekend, Shea Adam, it was not a good weekend in terms of luck for the number 33, Harry Gottsacker, Hyundai Elantra, and they're in the pits early with still an hour and 24 to go.
This looks like a pretty routine stop, though, John. I'm not as panicked as I initially was. Sticker tires for Harry Gottsacker. 40-minute minimum drive time for both of the drivers means that they have decided to do, in effect, a 3-split race with 2 stops. This first stop, they're not changing the driver. They did change the tires and they gave it more fuel, meaning that when they come in for the next stop with just over 40 minutes to go in the race, that's when the Canadian ace Mark Wilkins will take over.
Yeah, that's a good point. Just front Michelins on the Hyundai Elantra. A little bit longer wheelbase than the hatchback and the Veloster version of their TCR. Makes it a little bit more stable there. We're hoping for wet weather this weekend. When I spoke to Mark earlier on in the week in Inside Track, the Haggerty show on Tuesday. If you go to haggerty.com, you'll be able to watch that as it happens. Great show, actually. We had a lot of fun with Michael Lewis, as well as Mark Wilkins from a Hyundai, Brian Herter Autosport, as well as Howden Haynes, the multiple Le Mans winning race engineer, most recently looking after champion Porsche's Pikes Peak effort. And Tom Sullivan joined us too from Michelin Motorsport. That's all on haggerty.com on their community pages. This battle for third position in GS at the front of the field, with the leaders just beginning to come back together. It's still about a second between McAvern in the Turner BMW, the 95 yellow and blue car, and the dark grey team TGM Camaro of Hugh Plum. But the battle is certainly on, Jeremy Shaw, for third, fourth and fifth, with Brynjolfsson. Actually, he's pretty much right there now.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, isn't it? And all these different cars, you have BMW lead, Chevrolet in second, and the Porsche, the Toyota, Mercedes and an Aston Martin all scrapping over third position. Then the Vestel and McLarens in seventh, so 7 different cars at the front of this field. And with that pit stop for number 33 car, that has put number 84 into the lead of this race in TCR. That's Brian Henderson. That car started on the pole position most of the races this season, but it's now out in the lead. That's where it wants to be. There's no way, by the way, that number 33 car would have been planning to make that stop then. I think, Shea, there must have been something awry on that number 33 car to come in out of sequence like that.
Yeah, there was, Jeremy. They've got a fuel pressure issue with the car. They're working to diagnose it to see if they can make it last the remainder of the race even.
The leader of the the TCR category rather, Brian Henderson, now for Atlanta Speedworks, with a 2.7 second lead over Parker Chase for the Hyundai Elantra in second position, so 84 now from 98. And then it's the Copeland Motorsport Hyundai, the 27 car, in third position. So everybody's shifted up one. And this is such bad luck again, Jeremy, for the 33 car, who frankly, if they hadn't had bad luck this season, would have had no luck whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, new car this season, the Elantra, but it was certainly quickly that car's first pole position yesterday, so great effort by them. But you're right, they've had some niggles. One of the other team cars, one of the Velosters, number 77, of Taylor Hagler, that had problems yesterday in qualifying. That was also a fuel pump problem on that car that prevented it from setting a representative lap time in qualifying. So, under the hood, there are certainly some similarities in those Hyundai. So whether that's an issue they have to be concerned about long term, I don't know. But it's certainly a shame for that team. We just saw a glimpse, by the way, of how much closer now Hugh Plum is to the race-leading BMW Dylan McIvern. McIvern, by the way, last time around turned, actually the last 2 laps, McIvern has turned his best laps of the race. 156.3 last time around for Dylan in the lead, but still Hugh Plum is closing.
Yeah, he's had to do that, Jeremy. You're right, because even with that, Hugh's still taking a 10th or so out of that lead. It's just hovering around or just under the second mark. Just to underline what Jeremy was saying there about the Veloster number 77, Taylor Hagler in 8th position in TCR at the moment, and battling with the Alpha of Roy Block for 7th. Remember, she ended up being punted into the gravel in the 4-hour race, and they came back after a wonderful rearguard action from Michael Lewis to stay on the lead lap. He managed to get that car back on the podium and earn themselves the Michelin moment of the race. We'll be looking for Michelin moment of the race for both TCR and for GS before the end of this race, and a brand new set of Michelin Pilot racing tyres going to the team who gets that new fastest lap. Jeremy Shaw.
A different car and driver now. It was Ryan Hardwick that set the fastest lap last time around of the race so far, 156.023. And once again, Dylan McIvern turned his best lap of the race in the lead, just a 10th of a second slower than the number 16.
So that car, which had been struggling a little bit for pace, now finding, Jeremy, a second wind as we get into what is effectively the second half of the stint for those GS cars. We've had, in fact, a little bit beyond that, because we're 40 minutes in, so into the last third of that, the pit lane window is open in terms of driver times. But bad news, I'm afraid, if you're a Rebel Rock Racing and Urban Grid Camaro fans, the number 71 is being pushed away. Maybe it was too much to expect after that impact last week. The car rebuilt, not wanting to turn left, we heard from the team earlier on. Jeremy.
Yeah, and you're right, the pit stop window has opened in terms of meeting the minimum drive time requirement, 40 minutes in this race. But if you come in now, you're going to need another stop before the end of the race. And if possible, with that lengthy caution at the beginning of the race, I think it's just about on the cards for the GS cars to get to the end with just one pit stop. So I don't think we're going to see any of the contenders in to the pits right now.
I wonder what the Hyundai can do to get themselves back that 33. I wouldn't count them out of it yet, because obviously they're on a completely different strategy now. Harry Gottsacker is only 5 seconds behind the VGMC Honda. That's the battle for 13th and 14th. They might have to do something a little bit weird to get themselves back on it. At the front of the field, Dylan McIvern is doing exactly what he needs to stay out front. 8/10 of a second. It's varying between 8/10, 1.1, 9/10, 1.2. So that is a very tight battle at the moment between Hugh Plum in second in the TGM Camaro, which has different strengths and weaknesses, Jeremy, to the Turner BMW that's leading. But let's say, on average, around about a second between those two, and they are absolutely duking it out at the moment.
Yeah, great stuff at the front, and super to see all these different manufacturer cars. They all seem to be very, very close to the match, at least in terms of lap time at this stage in the race. But as you say, we've still got more than half of the race remaining. We've just completed 44 minutes, so an hour and 15 or so remaining. And out in front in TCR, it's been a really nice drive so far by that number 84 Atlanta Speedworks entry of Brian Henderson. That team scored its first victory just less than 1 week ago, when Ryan Eversley and the team principal Todd Lamb took the sister car, number 94, to victory lane.
They've gone the Red Bull effect, haven't they? They've got a lot of rig in that Honda. It really sits down
the way around,
on its front wheels. And that's quite unusual for a TCR car, a front-wheel drive car. You normally crank the back end as far down as you want, but it's working for them in that FK7 Honda, and they are doing great work at the moment with Henderson just being closed down on a tiny bit by Parker Chase over the last couple of laps in the Hyundai Elantra, number 98. It's down now, Jeremy, at just over half a second.
Indeed, and I misspoke there. We were looking at the 94 car, which that is the car that won last week, driven this weekend by Scott Smithson, who's sharing the car that won last weekend with Ryan Eversley, who is the championship leader coming into this round. For Scott Smithson, never driven here before, doing a very nice job in that 6th position at the moment in TCR. He's a little way back from the class leader, but he's doing a fine job to run here in the top 6 in the early stages.
Shea Adam is our VP Racing Fuel Pit and Paddock reporter. Any activity in the pit lane at the moment as we're beyond the 45-minute mark?
We've had 3 cars into the pit lane total. Rob Eklund is just now taking out the automatic racing Aston Martin 09 machine. Owen Trenkler took over for Ted Giovannis in the 64 Team TGM Camaro, his sister car out there fighting for the lead. And it's a rare day, but I believe Carbon has messed up their drive time. The 93 Audi came into the pit lane with Samir Gandhi after the green flag came out, technically speaking, after the race began, before the green flag came out, which meant that they were about a minute short on drive time. Samir Gandhi come right down the pit lane as soon as the pit window opened. I believe he will be short on drive time, but Tom Dyer is behind the wheel of the 93 Audi as of now. As for our main protagonist, well, all of a sudden the cell phones have been put down and the helmets have been put on, so everybody up and down the pit lane is waiting for the opportunity to get in their cars should it arise, and that could be very soon, because the red blobs around the circuit that are rain are closing in ever so quickly.
Oh, right, okay, that is very interesting. And the thing here then, Jeremy, normally you might want to open up the end of the race, but now I think you want to probably go as long as possible, don't you, to see what the weather actually does, so that you don't have to make a second stop.
Yes, you don't want to make a second stop, that's for sure. But by the same token, if the rain does come, the fuel consumption will go down quite dramatically, so you'll be able to run much longer than you would be under full dry conditions. So there's certainly some strategy to be potentially played out here. You don't want to make two pit stops, that's for sure. But I think we might see some people kind of gambling, and as soon as if there's any inkling that the rain is imminent, then maybe you come in and make a stop as soon as you can once those drops of rain begin to fall, because once they do, it's quite likely going to come down pretty heavily. But look, you can't afford, if you're running up front, you can't afford to make a pit stop yet, although all those cars that Shea was talking about, they were right at the back of the field in GS, so get their driver stops out of the way. Their second drivers significantly faster. They're only going to get in the picture if the caution falls in their favours.
Let's take an update on the number 19 car that we were talking about just a few moments ago, the Van der Ster racing car that didn't even see the green flag. Shea Adam has a VP Racing Fuel pit report.
The team is reporting that they have an answer as to why he hit the wall. The left axle was broken on that car. Now, whether that was before the damage, which is what they're saying, or as a result of, we don't know. But we do know that the splitter is still wedged in the guardrail for all you people out there who sent in the screen caps. Thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. Chance for an opportunity there for a bit of a memorabilia. Being told by our very good friends down at Corvette Racing, who are at ground level on the pit lane, wind blowing from the south at the moment. The weather's coming from the north, and so that's been kept away for the moment. ... Thank you, Ryan, and everybody down there, keeping us up to date with what's going on. We're rather isolated from the outside world in the Hagerty Global Broadcast Centre. 70 minutes to go. Great journey so far for Brian Henderson and the Honda Civic. He's pulled out that Atlanta Speedworks lead in TCR, Jeremy, to 1.3 seconds. That's courtesy of a couple of decent laps in the last couple, and he's got the fastest lap of the race, and he's been pretty close to it last time around as well.
Yeah, that's right. Parker had closed in a little bit, but you're right, the last couple of laps, Brian has extended that lead just a little bit. About 3 seconds back is Tyler Gonzalez in the Copeland Motorsports Hyundai as well. And then a similar margin behind him is Chris Miller, who is hanging on ahead of the similar Audi RS3. It shows a DSG car now, it's car number 61. They switched back again.
Yes.
They were running a sequential car earlier on, didn't realise that. In overall, though, Dylan McEvoy continues to be harried by Hugh Plum. Alan Brynjolfsson has found a way past Alfredo Nadri now in the Aston Martin, and as a complete lap 22, resets a new fastest lap of the race for Alan Brynjolfsson in car number 7. That doesn't bode well, particularly well for the rest of the field, however, with Trent Hidman due to get into that car for the second half.
Yeah, it's a fair point. Very well made. Yes, I think there was at least one of the Audi share that was misdiagnosed in terms of the gearbox, whether it was the DSG or the sequential. There's pluses and minuses for both. I think the sequential is a little bit heavier, but it does shift a little bit quicker. Have we got it all right now on the timing screen?
Mark Murray, who is a man who would know, has said the 61 Roadshagger Racing Audi is sequential, not DSG.
Okay.
But the other one is in the pit lane now. That's the 17, Chris Miller, bringing that car in. The car which came to a stop on the front straight very early on in the race a couple of days ago. It is Mikey Taylor taking over and taking it to the checkers.
Right, well, that's with just over an hour and 8 minutes to go. That's tight, Jeremy. I'm not sure they'll get there without any help from the intervention of the Cadillac safety cars. New fastest lap of the race, and it is the number 94 Atlanta Speedworks TCR, the Honda Civic K7, and that's very impressive pace indeed from Scott Smithson.
Yeah, first time ever at this racetrack. He said yesterday, and most of the timing yesterday, as Shane was saying, yesterday was in the wet, so he hadn't got many laps in any case. Qualifying was dry, so he got a few laps in there, but he was still kind of building himself up to speed. And he said, I should be fine for the race. He is fine for the race, because as you say, John Hindhaugh, he's just at the fastest lap in TCR. That's Scott Smithson in that Atlanta Speedworks entry, car number 94. Just his second start in this championship. The trio finished third on Scott's debut. That was when was that? That was a couple of races ago. So that was round 3 at Mid-Ohio. Yeah, it was where he's made his debut. So a fine run in the second of the Atlanta Speedworks Hondas.
So this is how it stands at the front of the field as we're coming down to an hour and 6 minutes remaining. It's 1.3 seconds the lead in GS. Dylan McEvoy for the BMW Turner Motorsport number 96. Then the grey Camaro, Team TGM, and about a second further back. Then the Porsche, which is the light blue, black and white Porsche, the number 16 car, but it's got a big number 1 on it, from Wright Motorsport. That's Ryan Hardwick. But in behind that is Russell Ward for Winward Racing in the Mercedes AMG. He's very close up behind them. This is a big battle from Ryan Hardwick on down, and that's closing up again now. Then the bright yellow Volt Racing Aston Martin is in 5th position. That's the number 7 and Alan Brynjolfsson. Then the Riley Motorsports mainly white Supra. Then the McLaren And that is then the top 7, Jeremy. 17 seconds apart, all different manufacturers. Oh, how we love GS here in Michelin Pilot Challenge.
Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic, isn't it? And most of those cars, at one point or another during this race, have set the fastest race lap, which is absolutely remarkable.
Yeah.
There's Tyler Gonzalez trying to make a move here on Parker Chase. Brian Henderson, he's pulled out a massive gap of about a second.
Yeah, that was for second.
First leaders to pit.
It was for second in TCR that Jeremy was describing there, and as Jeremy has seen from our Haggerty Global Broadcast Centre, the Volt Racing Aston Martin Shea Adam is in the pit lane for this VP Racing Fuels update.
2 British cars coming down the pit lane this time. The Mia McLaren is also in. Sheena Monk handing over to Spencer Pigot, trying to get a second trophy in the span of a week. And Alan Brynjolfsson, who jumped out of an LMP3 car a little while ago, did a fantastic job in the Aston Martin, jumps over the wall and leaves his trusty steed in the most capable hands of Trent Hinman. This car was running very well at the end of the race, not even a week ago, looking good for a podium position when they got a penalty. They're looking for some redemption here. Fuel and 4 Michelin tires waiting on the fuel. Perfect stop, just waiting for every last drop to go into this Aston Martin. An hour and 5 minutes remaining. They should be able to make it from here, as Sheena Monk is staying in the pit lane and Spencer Pigot just now starting to roll too.
It's going to be tight. It really is going to be tight. Before I let you go, Shea, can you give us an update on the 71? It wasn't the fact that it wasn't turning left that has put that car behind the wall, the Urban Grid Rebel Rock Racing Camaro.
That was the first indicator of issues, unfortunately. It turned into an electrical gremlin. The car would not refire. The team changed the battery, still nothing. They played with it for a little while and then finally decided, you know what, I think we better take this one back behind the wall and have a bigger look at it. So that's what they have done. A couple more pit callers in. The 57, Bryce Ward, is in the Mercedes, handing over to Alec Udell. And in the world of TCRs, the second in championship, number 77, Taylor Hagler is in. She's staying in. It's 2 new front Michelin tires for Michael Lewis, going out to try and regain that championship lead from Ryan Eversley. Waiting on fuel for that car. And Michael Johnson Racing is into the pit lane. Michael Johnson staying. Stephen Simpson taking it out, 2 tires for that Hyundai as well. Losing some time now. The fuel probe has been out of the 77 for a couple of seconds. Car is still up on the jacks. It's a slow right rear tire change. That's weird. They don't often change the rears on the Hyundai, and that caught them out. Now Michael Lewis goes. That's got to be 12 seconds lost on that pit stop.
Yeah, I wonder if they had a tyre issue and that's why they did it. I honestly didn't notice whether they did both of the rear tyres, but I would expect that they did. What Shea's referring to there is that the determining factor for the car standing still should always be the fuel fill. That is part of the balance of performance and something that IMSA looks at very, very carefully, and you should be able to change your driver and 4 tyres whilst that is going in. It was considerably longer for that Hyundai. Meantime, GS stops as well now, Shea.
Trevor McClure has called in the AWA McLaren fuel, tires, and a driver change. Kuno Whitmer aboard that car to take it to the flag, and looked like a pretty clean stop, actually. The fuel probe came out, and Kuno left right away.
That's what you want to see. That's exactly what you want to see. Did I also see, Shea, that the Whitmer family is going to be represented by another Kay Whitmer for the remainder of the IMSA season?
For the TCR category?
Yes.
Possibly. I know not for this race. The 88, the car which you're referring to, Carl Whitmer was driving that car last week. For today's race, it is John Miller who is the second driver in that car. And the primary driver for the VCMG entry was Lance Bergstein, who's out in the car still right now. More TCR pit stops continuing. This is the Alpha in the pit lane, fuel and tires, as Roy Block stays and Tim Lewis will go.
Yeah, I think I saw a tweet from Carl saying he'd got some more drives in that car for the rest of the season. Wright Motorsports are running the third place. Ryan Hardwick, number 16 Porsche. Temperatures dropping a few degrees. Well, the air temperature's gone down to 17 Celsius. If you'd prefer, that's 63 Fahrenheit. The track temperature is 79 at Fahrenheit, and that's 26. So that's gone down a good couple of degrees on both sides of that equation, both on the track and in the air. Looks like the wind might be picking up again, and they'll have the seaweed out and everything else at the moment, Jeremy, trying to work out what this weather's going to do, because this could actually determine the race here, not just because of who deals with any weather that comes, but when, how long these front cars can stretch before they need to jump and make their decision on tyres to the end of the race.
Yeah, that's exactly right. They want to stay out as long as they can. You know, if in case the rain comes, then they can get everything out of the way in one swell swoop. The pit stops, the driver changes the fueling, and change to wet weather tyres. But you know, we've got some more cloud cover now. We're not in sunshine like we were maybe 15-20 minutes ago, but there's still, touch wood, no sign of rain here at the racetrack, and so the leaders continue to run around 156.6. The last lap for race leader Dylan McAvoy is just driving a nice consistent pace at the moment and maintaining his advantage over Hugh Plum. They're both now, we are exactly halfway through this race, just over an hour into the race. So I would expect these GS cars to stay out there for at least another 5 minutes or so, if they can, and hope then that the rain comes.
Let's give you a rundown of the GS field. We're in the middle of some TCR pit stops. All the leaders haven't stopped yet, but it's McAvoy for Turner Motorsport, the BMW, the white, yellow and blue number 95 bike. Still that pesky tenth of a second as far as Hugh Plum for Team TGM and the Camaro is concerned. The 46 car in second is now nearly 7 seconds ahead of Ryan Hardwick from Wright Motorsports Porsche, who is continued to be pressured by the Riley Motorsports Supra, now in fourth position. Russell Ward's another 2 seconds further back in the Winward Racing number 4 Mercedes. That's your top 5. And Vin Barletta for Turner Motorsport in 6th position. That's a great run from Vin, by the way. Not even 30 seconds behind the leaders. That's your top 6 there. None of those GS cars, in fact, all the way down to 9th at James Pessing, none of those have made their pit stop yet. Brian Henderson leads in TCR. He's 10th overall. He's got 1.3 seconds on Parker Chase in the Hyundai Elantra number 98. That's one of the light blue, the duck egg blue cars. He's only a 10th of a second ahead of Tyler Gonzalez. They're having a cracking scrap in the Copeland Motorsport car. That's the black, white and red car in third position, and they've got 10 seconds on the Atlanta Speedworks number 94, still the car with the fastest lap time in TCR. And if I go down through TCR, the first car that has stopped in TCR is, of course, Harry Gottsacker, who was out of kilter with everybody else with that fuel pressure problem. And the number 33 Elantra then is the first car to stop, but will have to stop again before the end of the race. More pit stoppers from the front of the field as Team TGM from second chair hits the pit lane.
Plum out, Plum in. Hugh over to Matt. 4 tires and fuel for the Team TGM Camaro, also into the pit lane. We've got the 96 Turner Motorsports BMW. This is not the one that was leading. Vin Barletta getting out. Robbie Foley taking over. Michael McCann in the Audi is handing over to Andrew Davis. And in Toyota land, it is a stop. It's Nagri out and Kleinubing getting into the 14 there. We've got a Ford in the pit lane as well. That's James Pesic, the number 40 PF Racing Mustang. He's handing over to Chad McCumbee, a guy who's pretty nifty around here in the wet weather situations. And a terrible pit entry for the 98. This was Parker Chase in the Hyundai Elantra that came in from second in the TCR category, way too far away from the box for the fuel probe to reach. It looked like he was overshooting his spot, and actually Gabi Chavez, who's supposed to be taking over the car, helping the team push it into position. This car out of contention as of right now for messing up their pit stop. And Gabby Chavez just throwing his hand up in the air in frustration at seeing his chances of a race-winning return going out the window. But they are doing 2 tires on this Hyundai as Parker now gets out of the car. And just to let you know, we have had one of the biggest pit lane speeding violations I've seen in a while come down. It's a stop and go penalty for car number 65. That is 34 clicks over the limit.
Well, the reason that Parker Chase missed his box is because the Toyota Supra had an unsafe rejoin. He's pulling in, the Supra is pulling out and got into the Hyundai box. The Supra should not have been released there, and I think we'll get a penalty for that. And that's not going to give the time back, Jeremy, to the Brian Herter Autosport number 98 Elantra, who is also taking rear tyres as well. So they've lost time. They've figured, I suppose, they might as well have a full set of Michelins to push as hard as they can in the remaining 55 minutes of this race.
Yeah, slick tyres still going on these cars. That was really unfortunate for Parker. I thought it was odd that he would make a mistake like that. He's got a pretty useful amount of experience now in these cars, of course, and that was nothing he could have done to avoid that. He did everything he could to avoid contact, which is the most important thing. And most unlike Riley Motorsports, to wave out that Toyota right when the number 98 car was trying to make its into its pit stall. That's not the sort of mistake you expect from Riley Motorsports. I think it's for sure going to take that number 14 Toyota out of contention as well.
Totally, and that's a shame because it had been going really well. The Toyota Supra, the Gazoo Racing GR4 for Riley. It's one of those things, isn't it? It was unfortunate for Parker. One thing I will say about the Hyundai team, they kept their cool, and Parker didn't do the things that many people might have done and just stuck the thing in reverse and reversed it back. That would have been instant disqualification. He waited for the team to push it back. You are not allowed under power to drive backwards down the pit lane. So at least he's kept them in the race, and we'll keep our eyes open to see how that car recovers, as we have the leader of GS and therefore the Sahlen's 120 at the Glen overall into the pit lane, and Shea Adam has a VP Racing pit report.
Dylan McIvern is out, and Bill Oberlin, Bill Power, is behind the wheel of the 95 BMW. Now, this team was clearly waiting to try and hope that they could bring Dylan in, put Bill and Rain tires all in one fell swoop, but they had to cover everybody else in case of a caution. So sticker slick Michelin's going on to this car, waiting on the fuel as the car comes off the air jack. Now, I was waiting for the sound effect to come through, but it didn't because they left the car in the air jack a little bit longer. Thank you, John. I appreciate the sympathy, air jack sound. And there goes Bill speeding back out of the pit lane. Also into their cars, we've got Jan Halen in the Wright Motorsport Porsche, Indy Donchi in the number 4 Windward Racing Mercedes, and a guy who was super fast in the one practice we had yesterday in the rain, Eric Foss in the 56 Murillo Racing Mercedes. And something that was kind of surprising to me, it's been 4 years since Eric Foss and Jeff Mosing have won a race. Did that change today?
Can't possibly be true. Has Bill Oberlin, Jeremy, got back out in the lead without losing the lead for Turner Motorsport?
Yes, he has. The number 46 car must have lost a lot of ground. Did they have... we can't times that. Yeah, it's only been in the pits once. So for some reason, Matt Plum lost a fair bit of time during that pit stop sequence. Into second position now is the Volt Racing Aston Martin with Trent Hindman at the wheel in second position. He's ahead of Jan Halen, who's taken over from Ryan Hardwick in the Porsche. That's in third position. But yeah, Bill is out in front and looking golden at the moment. He's made his what should be, I think, his one and only pit stop in this race. The question for Trent Hindman is he going to be able to reach the end, or is he going to be hoping for rain, which would mean everybody would have to stop and everybody would have to change onto wet weather tyres? I think that's going to be Hindman's only chance at this point in the game, unless there's some lengthy caution periods. So very, very interesting. In TCR, by the way, we saw Brian Henderson was also in last time around. Scott Smithson stayed out. He's now pitting on this lap 30 for for Scott Smithson in the lead of that class, and he will hand over that number 94 car to Ryan Eversley. Smithson reset again the fastest lap in TCR just before he brought the number 94 car into the pits.
Yeah, we know that Bill Oberlin is actually human. We saw him being passed at the front of a race just, 4 or 5 days ago. We saw him spin the car in bad weather in the IMSA WeatherTech session yesterday. I suspect that he'll have his elbows out in this one with 50 minutes to go. Chase me, 4.5 seconds, Trent Hinman. Let's see what you can do. Penalty share coming for pit lane protocol. Is it who we think it is?
It is. It's the Toyota Supra, number 14 of the Riley Motorsport variety. And I did some pit stop time crunch. By the way, that's a drive-through penalty for that violation. I did some pit stop number crunching. 1 minute 19 seconds for the leader, Bill Oberlin. And you said that he was mortal. Well, Johnny, he was just inspecting the tire barriers. That's what he said in qualifying yesterday.
Nice.
But in the race last week, he took over in the lead and he never gave it up in GTD. So is Bill about to do that again? 2 seconds longer in the stop for the 7-Volt Racing Aston Martin. But remember, they need more fuel to make it to the end of the race. It was 1 second longer for the Wright Motorsport Porsche and 5 seconds longer for that Plum-driven Camaro. That's where the time was lost, and that's the difference between cars 16 and 46, and why the track position is 16 then 46.
50 minutes to go. Let's give you a rundown after everyone has made at least one pit stop. So in TCR, it's the Atlanta Speedworks number 84 as it was before the pit stops. Now with a 7-second lead to Copeland Motorsports Hyundai, the number 27 in second place with Tyler Maxson in behind the wheel. It's John Morley for Roadshagger Racing, another 7.5 seconds further back in third, and 14 seconds back to Ryan Eversley in the Atlanta Speedworks Honda FK7. He made up 10 seconds in the 4-hour race, Ryan, 4 or 5 days ago in that 94 car, so don't count him off yet. It is Copeland Motorsports 51 for Mason Filippi in 5th position, and Michael Lewis for Brian Herter Autosport, the number 77, in 6th position. Mark Wilkins is now aboard the Hyundai Elantra, which was off kilter, and that has made its second and final stop. It had to within the next 7 or 8 minutes anyway, so they are off kilter, and that early stop with fuel pressure problems has really cost that car dearly. At the front of the field in GS and leading the Sahlen 120 at the Glen, Turner Motorsports BMW M4 GT4 Bill Power, Bill Oberlin leading by 4.5 seconds from Trent Hinman in the Volt Racing Aston Martin, the number 7 bright yellow car in second, from Jan Halen, who's another nearly 5 seconds further back. So those pit stops have really spread everybody out. The Porsche 718 Cayman GT4, the light blue car, was good early, then struggled in the middle, and then came good again at the end in the first stint. How will Jan Halen make it go? That number 16 car. He's only got a second or so on the Team TGM Camaro, which came into the pits in second and comes back out in 4th position. Then Spencer Piggott for Motorsport in Action in the number 3 McLaren. That's in 5th position. The top 6 made up by Indy Donchi for Winward Racing, another 3 seconds further back. Jeremy Shaw, losers are easy to see there, certainly in the front of the field. Matt Plum and Team TGM. What about the winners in that pit stop cycle?
Pit stops. Number 7 car certainly it would be the biggest change. Number 16 also had number 46. That's a significant one. But I'm watching the battles here, or the lap times. The last 2 laps, Bill Oberlin has reset that car's fastest lap of the race. His first flying lap was 1:56.09. That was the quickest lap for that car in the entire race. His first flying lap. The next lap was a 1:55.4, so fully half a second quicker. However, However, behind him, Trent Hinman was quicker on each of those laps, and on this last lap has just reset the fastest lap of the race. It actually had been held by Tom Dyer in number 93 car barn with Peregrine Audi. He's a couple of laps down, but Trent Hinman just reset the fastest lap at 1:55.10. And again, the fastest lap back last week was also by Trent Hinman, 1:54.8 in at number 7 Aston Martin. That gap between first and second then down now to 4 seconds.
And in TCR also the fastest lap has been reset at 1:57.097, not last time around, although he's done a 57.5, and that's John Morley in the number 61, the road coloured Audi RS3 LMS, and that car in third position now, just 5.5 seconds away from Tyler Max and second place in TCR. Shea Adam has some news for us on the Unitronic JDC Miller Motorsport Audi in this VP Fuels pit report.
That car is not having a good time at Watkins Glen. Last week it came to a stop on the front stretch. Well, it's gone back behind the wall because the axle has popped out of joint. And they have a penalty for refueling on the stands. So if they do get back out from behind the wall with the axle issue in 45 minutes, they're going to have to serve a drive-through penalty right off the bat.
At IMSA Radio, if you'd like to get in touch with us, Watkins Glen is the venue for the Sahlen's 120 at the Glen, the latest round of the IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge. Next time out, both WeatherTech and Pilot Challenge is GT only, and that will be in a couple of weeks' time up at Lime Rock Park for the North East Grand Prix. Fabulous venue, very quick, although very short. All the details at limerock.com. Free parking, under 16s are free, and if you're serving or veteran military, you'll get in free as well. All the details at limerock.com for the next round of the Michelin Pilot Challenge and of the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Challenge, and we'll have full coverage of that later on today. Leader at turn 8 is Bill Oberlin, putting laps on, ear lap at least, on one of the Audis there as he went through. I think it was one of the GT4 cars that he's just gone by. It's Tom Dyer in the car bar with Peregrine, 93 car, I think.
No, that's the green car, number 93.
Oh yes, of course it is. So yeah. What's the silver car then?
That's number 83. That is the
83.
The car.
There you go.
Yeah, 83, which is the James Vance Alex Papadopoulos car.
That's the GS car. Yeah, my apologies.
Again, his previous lap was a 55.4, so quicker again. This lap he had some traffic, so all of a sudden that gap from first to second now is down by over a second and a half. It's 2.5 seconds now, the gap between first and second. Trent Hinman probably lost a little bit of time getting through past those TCR cars at turn 1. Jan Halen about 5 seconds back in third position, just ahead of Matt Plum. Spencer Piggott was charging along there in that fifth position, although that gap is now kind of stabilised between Plum in fourth in the Chevrolet and Piggott in the McLaren in fifth.
What do we reckon, Jeremy, in time, in terms of how many laps these cars at the front of the field can do? They did an hour and 11, call it an hour and 12 minutes at the start. That was 30 laps, but we had 4 laps at the start of the race under full course caution behind the Cadillac safety car. Computer says around about 19 laps to go at the current pace. Bill Oberlin has been out there for just 5 laps at the moment. I think he could make this.
No, I'm sure he can. The question is, I think, can the number 7 car and number 3, those are 2 that they're going to be struggling. They're in the top 5 at the moment. Hinman in second position, Piggott in 5th. The question is, can they make it? They stopped 6 laps before the number 95. The first 5 laps actually were run under yellow. It was at the end of lap 5 that we went to green. So I think I think Bill Oberlin is golden there out in front, but he's certainly having to push hard. There he is again, a new best lap for that number 95 car, Bill Oberlin, 155.279.
Bill Oberlin, who, rather like Mark Cavendish, if you've been watching the Tour de France, defies time. He is just getting quicker. Like a fine wine, he is maturing and getting better and better. He's lost none of his speed. 155.2 last time around. That's barely, Jeremy, a tenth away from the fastest lap of the race, set by the man who's trying to chase him down, Trent Hinman. Oberlin, once again, just defying the years.
Yeah, just amazing. I mean, he really is remarkable. But, you know, he's still super motivated. And you know, he loves to win races, and when he's got a shot at winning a race, it doesn't matter how old he is. He's got the skills, he's got the experience, and experience is so important. And when you're as motivated as he has, your reflexes are still good. Yeah, the muscle memory is absolutely no problem at all. Nope, yeah, off he goes.
Shea Adam is keeping an eye on the weather radar for us at the moment. What are the teams saying, and what are you seeing for the next 40 minutes here at the Sahlen 120 at the Glen?
I'm kind of confused right now, John, because my weather radar shows a giant green flubber-like blob over at the racetrack. But the people who have been texting me back have been saying, it's not raining, it's not raining. I'm standing outside, my head isn't getting wet, it's not raining. So I'm not really sure what sort of dark magic has gone on with everybody at Watkins Glen to keep the rain away, at least for now.
Do you remember that short-lived TV programme? I think it got a series, maybe series and a half, and then disappeared, called Under the Dome. I think somebody's put the dome up, Shea, over the top of Watkins Glen.
That's actually a Stephen King novel to begin with. Stephen King, brilliant writer. And thank you, Ilian, for the text message to say it's not raining. So at the Mia camp, it's dry for the McLaren at least.
That's Shea Adam, our VP, Racing Field Pit Paddock reporter, charging back at the moment after the drive through the Toyota Supra, the GR Gazoo Racing Supra, and that car at the moment in the hands of Pierre Kleinubing for Riley Motorsports is 4.5 seconds away from 11th position. Really big day spoiled for them with that pit lane schmozzle. They were right up the sharp end of the field, and Jeremy, that car has pace. I tell you, that Toyota Supra, I was going to say by the end of the season it's going to be a factor. It is a factor. Right now, isn't it? It has the pace, no doubt.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And the car was actually running in 8th when Kleinubing made his pit stop to serve that penalty. So he had got back during that round of sequence of pit stops, of course, primarily because he was slow leaving his pit stall, was Kleinubing, because he'd been waved down at the wrong time. He had to, negotiate his way past number 98, so that cost him a fair bit of time there. He was certainly running very well, and in fact Kleinubing has just his last lap was less than a tenth of a second away from that car's fastest lap of the race at 55.8. So there's a lot to come from that team for the remainder of the season. I know the sister car, number 21, Anton Pereira and Scott Andrews. I spoke to both of those two guys after last weekend's incident when they had the tyre failure at turn 5, and they're both feeling pretty good about the end, the latter stage of this season. They will be back in another Toyota, which has been sourced from the AIM team from north of the border in Canada, actually, and they will be back for Lime Rock.
Yeah, that's they were very unlucky. That was an odd incident, and once we saw the end of it, i.e. the car in the barrier, as soon as we saw the onboard, my thought was there was a failure on the left front, and that has been confirmed from the team. Literally, driver was a passenger at that point. It really just took off high, and there was no way it was coming back from that. Now, interesting moment out on the circuit here right now, Jeremy, as the leader in TCR has just been passed by another Honda Civic. Now, hasn't lost the lead, but that's very interesting. That suggests to me that Rob Noecker is pacing himself as one of the cars off the lead lap has gone back through. And I think that was the VGMC Racing 88, wasn't it, that went back through there and got back on the lead lap in the hands, that number 88, in the hands of John Miller. So does that mean that the number 1 car is just watching its fuel at the moment? I would have thought they'd have been fine.
Yeah, well, I mean, they've got a handy lead. He leads Robert Noecker by 7.5 seconds over Tyler Maxton in second place. There's no point in overextending himself. John Miller, who's a very, very experienced driver. It's been a while since he's raced in this series. Daytona 18 was his last time, but 47 starts in the past. He's taken over that number 88 car from Lance Bergstein, making his debut this weekend. Lance, by the way, is a type 1 diabetes. He has type 1 diabetes, so he drives through that. He's carrying the colours of the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation on that number 88 car this weekend. They did a really nice first stint, and John Miller now back on the lead lap then in TCR. But Noecker he's got a pretty handy lead over Tyler Max, and John Morley has been closing in third position, and then there's a little bit more dicing going on a little bit further back.
Well, John Morley closing in courtesy of another best lap in TCR with a 1:57.085. Trent Hinman trying to close down the leader in the race, and he's got it down to 2.6 seconds courtesy of another best lap in GS. Hindman and Morley at the moment, Jeremy, the 2 drivers to keep an eye on.
Yeah, this is certainly developing into a really exciting race as usual in the Michelin Pilot Challenge, with just over 33 minutes remaining, so still quite a long way to go. And the skies, I think they look a little bit brighter than a little while ago.
Track temperature.
Good news for some and not good news for others.
Yeah, track temperature has dropped another few degrees because it's not sunny all the way around the track. Air temperature staying pretty constant as it was about 15 or 20 minutes ago. Shea Adam with more news from race control.
We've just had the 13 AWA McLaren back down the pit lane. 1 minute and 15 seconds for the stop, which tells me fuel and tires, but I wasn't expecting to see that car back down the pit lane for Kuno Wittmer. The worst race of the year so far came at this track just a few days ago. 14th place finish, still leading the championship with a 50-point buffer. Unfortunately, the people that he's leading over are leading the race.
Coming down to the last half hour of the race, this could really be a shake-up in the points position as we head to Lime Rock Park after this race. Bill Oberlin still leads by now just 1.8 seconds. Another fastest lap of the race, and under 1:55 for the first time in this race for Trent Hinman. Jeremy Shaw.
Yeah, indeed so. He's charging along there, but Bill, he's doing super consistent laps at the front. His last 2 laps, 1 minute 55.43 and 1:55.42. Just great consistency from Bill, and he's got his head down, he's focusing forward. I was expecting number 13 car to make another pit stop during this race because they came in way earlier than most of the contenders in GS, or 3 laps earlier than most of them. So I think they're just making that pit stop now. They know they can get to the end. They're probably thinking that it's going to stay dry now for the end of the race. So kind of the hope to wait for the rain isn't going to materialise. So therefore, get your stop out of the way now. And if there is a full course caution, or if the rain does come and they can stay on the lead lap, perhaps that'll work out in their favour. So I think that's probably some strategic decision to bring what the car that had been running in the 7th position in now.
Jeremy Shaw is with me, John Hindhaugh in the Haggerty Global Broadcast Centre. Weather threatening, but at the moment it's a bit like a tag team wrestling match. It hasn't been tagged in at the moment, and he's just waiting on the sidelines. And I'm getting a very interesting set of tweets at IMSA Radio from the teams and from various of you, our listeners and viewers, about what's going on around the area and the weather radar as well, of course, we have here in the Hackney Global Broadcast Centre. Put that to one side at the moment. That would just be extra spice on the main course here, because at the front of the field we have a race in GX. Bill Oberlin with now just 1.2 seconds of an advantage over the Aston Martin Vantage of Volt Racing. The Turner Motorsports BMW being hunted down at the moment. Jan Helen in third, not making any inroads really into the top two. And in TCR, Robert Noaker with a relatively comfortable 7 seconds lead. That's a huge margin in TCR terms. But Tyler Maxson for Copeland Motorsports just put that car's fastest second sector of the race in, and is closing down by about half a second last time around, and has to, because John Morley is there. John Morley has caught the Hyundai Veloster in second place with his Roadshagger Audi, the 61 in third. So we do, Jeremy, have a battle for second and third in TCR.
Yeah, and it's not long. I think we're going to have a battle for the overall lead as well. This race is really hotting up. Trent Hinman crosses the line now within a second of Bill Oberlin. 1:55.5 last time around for Bill. So again, his lap times are all within a tenth of a second or so when there's no traffic. They pulled out now 8 seconds. They've extended their lead over Jan Helen in third place. Great battle for fourth though. Matt Plum, Spencer Piggott in the Chevrolet and McLaren respectively, but Indy Dontje is right there as well in the Winward Racing Mercedes car number 4. So we've got a 3-car battle for 4th, 5th and 6th. We've got battles pretty much all the way around this field. Great stuff. Yeah,
it's been a good drive by Dontje. He's gradually reeled those guys in. It's not been huge amounts, but a 10th here, 2 tenths there, 3 tenths there, and he's been awesome through traffic. And he's worked that really well with the Winward AMG GT4. Mark Wilkins into the pits again in the 33 Elantra. Shea, they cannot buy any luck at the moment.
No, their fuel issues continuing to plague that number 33 Hyundai Elantra again and again throughout the course of this race, this being their 3rd stop, I believe, so far. That 2nd stop for AWA and the McLaren, by the way, they are fighting a potential mechanical issue. They came in to do their final stop early to try and see if there was anything to do. Potentially, it solves a fuel pickup issue if they put more fuel into the car so they wouldn't have to deal with that. And they took tires in case a caution comes out, because with just under 30 minutes to go, you never know when that final yellow is going to fly.
If it indeed does, yeah. Under half an hour to go. Clear the Jaws music, because we now have a battle for the lead. Across the line, down towards turn 1. Bill Oberlin looks in his rear view mirrors and his door mirrors, and he sees a set of headlights, and the headlights are that of the Aston Martin Vantage GT4 of Volt Racing. Great first stint by Alan Brynjolfsson. Do not underestimate what the non-pro driver did in that car. He was very quick indeed. And now Trent Hinman battling with the most successful IMSA driver in history for the win. They've got nearly 9 seconds on the rest of the field, so it's down to these two, Jeremy Shaw, for the win with 27 minutes to go.
Yeah, this is great stuff, isn't it? And not far ahead of him, by the way, is Kudo Whitmer, who's trying to stay on the lead lap in number 13.
That could be interesting.
AWA McLaren. But Bill Oblin, this is just a brilliant drive. I mean, his laps are just fantastically consistent. He is absolutely on the ragged edge. The Aston, no question about it, is slightly the faster car. It just suits the smooth asphalt here at Watkins Glen after that repave a few years ago. It just suits the Aston really, really well. And even though that additional weight from 1 week ago, the addition of 30 kilos on the Aston Martin, that's a fair bit of weight, 60 odd pounds, 65 pounds or so. But the Aston is still quick and it suited well. But Trent Hinman, he knows he's got a battle on his hand if he's going to get this win. That car, by the way, number 7 car, was looking really good last week for the win. Unfortunately, they got pinged for a pit stop. They ducked in at the last minute and broke the rules with a late call to come into the pit lane. I think it was. Shane might know more about that.
Yeah, they were late getting across the line.
And that cost them. Yeah, that cost them the chance of the victory there. So for Trent Hinman and Alan Brynjolfsson, they're looking for redemption here this afternoon.
Yeah, it's a good point, Jeremy. The Astons in both GT4 and GT Daytona guys have been very quick here. Aston used the same platform for both of their GT cars. BMW, of course, will be moving to the M3 for the GT3 next year, rather than the M6 and the M8, which are the GT Le Mans and the GT3 cars. No word yet about whether we'll see them back in the top class of GT, whatever that is. Kuno Whitmer, very gentlemanly there, even though he was losing the lap, Jeremy. Moved over for the battlers. Kuno, of course, with Bill Oberlin when they won Petit Le Mans in 2017, but exactly what you'd expect from Kuno. He's been around the track, he knows what goes around comes around. Never know when you might need a favour when when the racing boot is on the other foot. But the leaders are together now, over the brow, down towards the heel of the boot at turn 8, and Trent Hinman very interested now in taking this lead. The Aston slightly lower but slightly wider than the Turner BMW, menacingly with its nose pressed down to the floor, that new shaped Aston Martin, almost as if it's sniffing the ground. The Predator has found its prey and coming towards the final corner, turn number 11, and onto the front straight with 24 minutes to go. This is the battle for the lead of the Sahlen's 120 at the Glen.
Yeah, brilliant stuff. Bill reset his best lap last time around at 55.12. That's within a couple of tenths of a second of Trent Hinman's fastest lap of the race. So the Aston might be a little bit quicker, but certainly not much. And Bill is wringing the neck of that number 95 BMW. His teammate, by the way, Robbie Foley, is up into 7th position as well. Some way back, about a half a minute back. But it's again another good day so far for the Turner Motorsport BMW team.
Through the inner loop. That's just lovely. Absolutely lovely to see these two battling, and for the moment at least they have a bit of clear track ahead of them. That's not going to last, Jeremy. There's a gaggle of 3 or 4 TCR cars not too far up the road, and that is the battle for second on down in front of them. That's Tyler Maxson and John Morley, who are absolutely together, and they are going to be the next cars that the battle for the lead overall comes up against.
Yeah, that's true. And about 5 seconds ahead of them is the class leader, Robert Noacre, taking over from Brian Henderson and maintaining that lead as Trent Hinman once again kind of looks to the inside at turn 8. That's not, he's not trying to make a pass, so he's just trying to distract Bill Oberlin. Unlikely, Trent, but hey, anything's worth a try. You know, the 2 yellow cars here, but they're very different yellows. And Trent Hinman, he's so fast through turn 9, closes right up on the tail of the BMW going into 10 and 11. But the BMW is super fleet through this final corner. It's a great battle between these two.
Interesting to see, as Jeremy's pointing out there, the way the cars are so evenly matched but make their lap times in different ways. They have different strengths and weaknesses. And I know balance of performance are three dirty words in motor racing sometimes, but credit has to go again to the IMSA technical team. They collect gigabytes of information every race. Good run out of the top of the hill from Hinman in the Aston Martin. He stays tucked up underneath the rear wing. Bill Oberlin is not moving from the right-hand side of the track. He's going to make the Aston go around the long way, which can't be done there. The Aston is quick, but not that quick. Oberlin will stay to the inside of the inner loop, which is where they are now, and there's traffic right ahead of them. TCR traffic at that. I think it's the Copeland Motorsports car right ahead of them. I'll tell you that in a moment. No, it's not. It's one of the Audis. Apologies. Coming up to the toe of the boot, as hopefully the team have been on the phone to the Audi driver. It is the number 15 actually that they are catching up to one of the TCR runners, and sensibly steers to the right hand side. That's the Rockwell Autosport RS3, already coming through towards the end of the lap. Oberlin, absolutely, Jeremy, on the ragged edge. He's got nothing more to give from that car with 20 minutes to go. He's not waving about though. He's being absolutely fair and basically saying to Trent Hinman, if you've got the pace, drive around me, but I'm not going to make it easy for you.
No, brilliant. And wasn't it interesting on that last lap? I mean, the BMW seemed to be absolutely as fast on the straight as was the Aston Martin. The Aston was able to make no ground at all coming out of the S's all the way through to the inner loop. Bill was taking the defensive line down there, but the Aston made no ground on him. This is a great battle between these two. Behind it, by the way, Jan Halen, he's just turned his best lap of the race a couple of laps ago. I thought I saw. Yeah, he did. He turned his best lap of the race, but he's now 9 seconds back in third position. Behind Halen, by the way, Spencer Piggott has just overtaken Matt Plum for fourth place. So the Mia McLaren ahead of the team TGM Chevrolet.
Yeah, you mentioned how well Spencer was going, and he has now overhauled that Indy. Jonchi is right there as well with that pull, that little pull forward that he's been doing. And he's now right behind Matt Plum in the TGM Camaro. Down the inside, battle for the lead at turn 7. It's repelled once again. I love the way, you know, we talk a lot, Jeremy, don't you? And you and I don't always see this the same way about defending and blocking. But I'm sure we'll be on the same page here. Bill Oberlin makes his move to the inside really early, coming out of whatever corner it is, and basically says to Trent Hinman following, if you think you've got the ponies or you're later on the brakes to go around the outside into the next corner, be my guest. I actually love this. These cars are as polar opposites as they can be. Oh, the Volt Aston into the pit lane. Well, now yeah. This I wasn't. 20 minutes to go.
Yep. That's what we talked about. It came into the pits 6 laps earlier than had done the BMW. They've been pushing super hard, fast as well, of course. So this is
with the wipers going, Jeremy. The wipers are going. Hi. Yeah. On that car, no tyres offered. It will be fuel only for the Aston. And
saying hi, there are sprinkles on the pit lane. The rain is here at various points around the track, and the pit lane is one of them.
Well, no tyres even proffered down there for the Volt Aston Martin with Archangel. So Jan Helen's got through into second. Now, in terms of where Jan is on his fuel, he's only a lap worse off than the leader, Bill Oberlin. He's working his 19th lap out of the pits. Halen, therefore, working his 20th.
just after the 1 hour mark. I think it's going to be a stretch to get to the end. As you say, if anybody can, it'll be Bill Oberlin.
Correct.
But
35 minutes he's been out.
Yeah, he was the last of the leaders to make his pit stop. So he's in the best shape, but he's had to push so hard to keep the Aston behind him that I wonder whether he's going to have enough to get to the end from here. This is a fascinating contest. I rather doubt it, to be perfectly honest. I think everybody might need to come in. We just saw the McLaren, the MIA McLaren, come into the pit. Spencer Piggott gave up what would have been third position to make his fuel stop, so he resumes at the bottom end of the top 10.
Well, speculation here. I submit this to the court of public opinion. Bill Oberlin had 5-odd seconds when he came out. That disappeared. He was already fuel saving, wasn't he? And he knows exactly what he's got to do to get to the end. He's not coming in. Oberlin's not coming in. And they've said to Bill, drive fast, save fuel. Oh, thanks, guys. Have I got to do this again? Yes, Bill, you have. Okay. And he's got on with it. That's basically what he's done. Shea Adam.
But John, may I present to the court, Bill Oberlin and Dylan McIvern second in points, stand to inherit that points lead. If they finish the race, if they run out of fuel on the cooldown lap, that puts Kuno Whitmer back in front of them, and bye-bye points advantage.
Yes, true.
Last lap around for Bill was a 156.8, so all of a sudden a full second and a half away from where he had been running when he was dicing with Trent Hinman.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And Haaland's still 8.5 seconds back. So that's the car that he's pacing himself to at the moment if he's not stopping. If he's pacing himself to Trent Hinman, he's got 46 seconds on Hinman because he's been down the pit lane. Now, how many of the cars between Oberlin, who leads, and Hinman in 6th might have to stop, Jeremy? And that's the question, and that's the calculation that Will Turner and the rest of Will Turner Motorsport are doing at the moment. How much can we slow up and still get to the end of the race? Meantime, in TCR, Robert Noaker, he has had his lead cut just a wee bit as well. It's down to 3.6 seconds. John Morley sort of stalled around half a second behind the Copeland Motorsport 27 Veloster in that number 61, the dark grey Roadshagger Racing Audi. He's dropped back to a couple of seconds now, but those are your top three. Chip?
I think we're about to go full course caution. John Miller is off the track at turn 10. I don't remember the last time I said John Miller off the track, but he is well through the gravel. I don't think he can get back out. And the yellow is out. That's the caution that Oberlin needed.
It's the caution he didn't need, isn't it, Jeremy?
No, there's a caution. If there's a caution, he should be able to get to the end without making another pit stop, I think.
But it's going to back everybody up to him.
Oh, yes.
with loads of fuel. Now, having said that, Trent Hinman didn't take tyres. So tyre wear, he's still better off than Trent Hinman on tyre life. And Jan Haaland, albeit just by a lap on the Porsche driver in second place. As far as Hugh Plum's concerned, he's a further lap back. Indy Donchi is on the same as Jan Haaland. Robbie Foley in the other Turner Motorsport BMW, he's on the same as Matt Plum. So they're all about the same, but Hindman is 4 laps worse off on tyre wear, which is not a huge amount. And that was a mistake, I think, on his own for the Honda. And for John,
it's a funny place to go off. I mean, way to the exit of turn 10. That was kind of a weird one.
And right, he's skittled right across the gravel trap as well.
Yeah, which is quite a long way from the exit of the corner.
Yeah, agreed. We saw, let's not forget, less than a week ago, we saw Taylor Hagler there getting tipped into a turn right at the apex of the corner and only just falling into the edge of the gravel. So yes, he has gone a long way, Jeremy. That's a very good point. The AMR safety truck is there, the Chevy safety truck already there. 12 minutes to go. Bill Oberlin has turned the map all the way down. He's got his wipers on for a moment. Oh my goodness. This is very interesting. What is the weather going to do here at Watkins Glen in the last 12 minutes of the Sahlen's 120 at the Glen. The safety car is out, and we are going to have round about, I reckon, a 7.5 minute dash to the flag. Jeremy, even possibly less than that, Jeremy.
I tell you what, that's going to be a heck of a battle. It's going to be a reset of the field now, because there's quite a few cars in TCR that are trapped in between the safety car and the class leader. John Morley, who'd been running third in TCR, he'd just been lapped by Bill Oberlin. So all of the TCR cars that are behind Morley and behind, down to, I think, probably even Gabby Chavez and perhaps even Tim Lewis Jr. as well in the Alfa Romeo, actually, and Trenton Estep, I think, too, are all going to be able to cycle past, go past the safety car and retake their positions at the tail end of the lead lap. So it's going to take a little bit of a while here to sort this all out. Although we are within 15
Yeah,
minutes.
it's a short yellow, Jeremy. It is a short yellow. So, Shea, explain short yellow, please.
Pits do not open, and most of the folderol involved with getting the cars restaggered does not take place. But basically it means that if you want to follow the safety car back into the pit lane, you can do so without taking a drive-through penalty, unlike a normal yellow, where you have to wait until the first lap is completed.
Yeah, we will get the
pit stop side that's important at this stage.
No, not at all. It's the pass around.
It's the waiver at pass around, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely right. And that will happen very quickly. So we're just on 10 minutes to go in the Sahlen's 120 at the Glen. We're live on RS2, the home of IMSA Radio, via imsaradio.com in Sound and Vision 2 for those of you outside the US. And a reminder, still to come today, the WeatherTech 240, the latest round of the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship, 2 hours and 40 minutes. And we'll have that for you without interruption on IMSA Radio RS2 via the player at imsaradio.com. In the US, we're on XM202. And again, if you do not have a network TV showing this in your territory, we'll be on the live video button on imsaradio.com. That's still to come. Michelin Countdown to Green before that as well. Here comes the pass around. So cars will pull out to the right hand side, and it's John Morley who's the first to get the advantage from that. So he'll go all the way back around. He was within a second of the leading pair, of course, but had the leader just had past him. And when we have people, as they inevitably will, asking us about why it takes so long for a yellow flag in IMSA, this is why. Because the moment you have multi-class racing, it is inevitable that when the safety car comes out, you disadvantage some of the runners in the non-top class. And everything that IMSA do is to mitigate that and make it as little disadvantage as possible. So this is why the pass around is happening right now. Otherwise, John Morley, who was within a second of first and second and challenging for the lead, would have been 2 minutes or a minute and 55 behind, effectively a full lap behind through no fault of his own and nothing he could have influenced. So that's why this has happened. However, that's all that's going to happen, I think. The cars will be allowed to come round and they'll be asked to get a wee bit of a hustle on. I would have thunk, sorry, got that entirely wrong. Would have thunk, and John leading them round. He's already heading in the chute down towards turn 6. And in fact, beyond that, he's through the toe of the boot, whilst the rest of the field are on the back straight. With a bit of luck, we might be able to go green next time round with about 6 minutes to go. Here's how they stand then. Oberlin from Jan Halen now in second place. And of course, they're behind the safety car. Then it's Matt Plum for Team TGM. Indy Donchi. I'm going to say watch Indy Donchi in the number 4 Mercedes for Winward Racing. He's driven a really good race since he got into the car. And then in 5th place is Robbie Foley for Turner Motorsport, always entertaining. Then Trent Hinman, we know he's got fuel to burn now, and he will be trying to make up positions. Behind them, it's Andrew Davis and Eric Voss, and Chad McCumbee, Pierre Kleinebing, Alec Udell. Spencer Piggott has dropped all the way down to 12th place, and Shea Adam, there's a reason for that, which may become important in the last few moments of this race.
Well, I got curious because the stop for the Mia McLaren was 7 seconds longer than the Volt Racing Aston Martin. Both came down the pit lane for that final stop at the exact same time. They gave Spencer 2 left side sticker tires. Spencer's got heat in them, so that means he has new tires, whereas everybody in front of him is on old rubber.
Safety car is out. Is there enough time for Spencer Piggott to make advantage of that? Our Michelin moments of the race in GS and TCR. That's still to be decided. It's going to be about 5 minutes only as they come round. Jeremy, that's probably going to be 3 laps when we get back to green for the front of the field.
Stand back would be my recommendation.
Jeremy Shaw, sage advice in the Haggerty Global Broadcast Centre. Still 1 or 2 spots of rain as we come to the green flag for what we hope will be an unobstructed run to the flag. Bill Oberlin, he's seen it all. He's seen all the passes here. He knows exactly where the advantages are for that BMW from Turner Motorsport. Gets his foot down while everybody else was turning through turn 11, but Jan Helen goes with him. The green flag's in the air. 4 minutes and 45 seconds as they cross the line, and immediately Matt Plum is defending from Indy Donchi, and here comes Robbie Foley in the second Turner car. Can they get 2 cars on the podium here? I'm pretty certain Foley made up a position there. I'll tell you again in a moment. But it looked like he went through. He was very racy at the start. I think he took a place from Indy Donchi, I'll tell you in a moment. But here comes the Porsche. Porsche's quick in a straight line. The Cayman goes to the left-hand side. It's the wrong side into the inner loop. Bill Oberlin says, are you kidding me? You're not getting round there. This is the wettest part of the track, and it's the over and under from Jan Helen. Gets to the inside on the inner loop, but again the door slammed in his face by Bill Oberlin. These two have broken away nicely from Matt Plum, who sits still in 3rd place. Then it's Donchi, then it's Robbie Foley, so that they stay as they cross the line. Trent Hinman right up the tailpipes of the Turner BMW. Wipers are going, it's getting wetter. 3.5 to go in TCR. Noaker, Morley, Maxon. Morley's through to second. John Morley through to second for the Audi. So that pass around, that's why they do the pass around. John Morley had the pace and is now in second. Can he chase down the Atlanta Speedworks Honda? He was 0.19 of a second, 0.019 of a second away from the leader at the last timing point. First 2 together as they come through to turn 10. Remember, we've got another 2 hours and 40 minutes for the WeatherTech 240 to come this afternoon live on IMSA Radio and IMSA TV. Around the final corner now with 3 minutes to go. This is going to be tight. I think it will be white flag next time around, Jeremy, in the TCR battle. Absolutely raging at the moment. Great restart from John Morley.
Yeah, what a race we got on our hands here. And hats off, by the way, to Kuno Whitmer. I think he was 3rd on the road at restart in the AWA McLaren. He's got well out of the way of those guys that were battling in his way, which is 4th, 3rd position. Matt Plum on back as the TCR battle is super intense. So John Morley is in the lead in TCR.
Correct, Morley is in the lead. He's fought his way through, so the pass around has worked for Roadshagger. He's in behind a couple of GT4 cars. The leaders are going through and exiting the inner loop into the outer loop now. That's the wettest part of the circuit. You start to see a little bit of a sheen on the tarmac here at Watkins Glen International, live on IMSA Radio and IMSA TV. It's Fast Friday for the Sahlen's 120 at the Glen, and Oberlin will have one lap, 3.4 miles at the end of this one. Matt Plum's fighting a rearguard action as well, trying to hold on to the third spot on the box. He's got Indy Dungy, Robbie Foley and Trent Hinman right with him. And Andrew Davis from McCann Racing in the Audi's not that far back. This could end in tears. And now, all of a sudden, John Morley's down into third with not one but two Hondas ahead of him. He eases his way up the inside of the 94 Ryan Eversley and goes back up into second place. Those GT4 cars are getting in the way of this battle. John Morley tries to get back up to second in class at turn number 8. Meantime, Bill Oberlin, with 1 minute left on the clock, will come to the white flag this time around. Breathe, Hindhoff, breathe. As he turns through for the final, for the penultimate time. The white flag is out, Jeremy.
Yeah, it was a great lap from Bill Oberlin there. 157. He must have been a bit defensive somewhere because it wasn't actually as quick as his previous lap. So he got defensive, but he has got to find a little bit of a breathing space. But this battle for TCR, they take the white flag as well. It's Robert Noaker who leads from his teammate Ryan Eversley, the championship points leader. Noaker still looking for his first win in the Michelin Pilot Challenge.
How many times have we said traffic taketh, traffic giveth? It would give, I think, to John Morley. He had the lead, but then he got stuck in behind the GT4 cars and he's lost the lead. He's dropped back down to third place and he's a long way back. He's got James Vance in between himself and the two Hondas in the Fast MD Racing Audi. So I think John Morley's chance has disappeared. Bill Oberlin is at turn 6, down through the chute for the final time. Coming to around half a lap to go as he brakes and turns in right-handed and uphill for the toe of the boot to turn 7, up across the top of the hill. Meantime, behind, it's still Jan Helen in second. All kinds of traffic behind that the battle for third is having to go with. And in third, it's still Matt Plum, holding on from Indy Donchi and Robbie Foley and Trent Hinman, still as they were at the restart. 3 corners to go. Oberlin, cool as you like. The BMW, Turner Motorsport, the number 95 car, not a wheel out of line since the restart, and that's going to do it for Turner. They're going to take the win at the Sahlen's 120 at the Glen. A phenomenal Friday for Bill Oberlin, who adds to his wins tally in IMSA. The VP Racing Fuel checkered flag waves for Bill Oberlin, Turner Motorsport, the 95 team. Jan Helen for Wright Motorsports brings the 16 home in second. Matt Plum, what a restart from Matt Plum. He was on the defensive, but he takes the third step of the podium for Team TGM. Then Donchi for Winwood Racing, Turner and Robbie Foley in 5th. Motorsports in action, make up the top 6. The Mia McLaren and Spencer Piggott. In TCR, it's the 2 Atlanta Speedworks Hondas. Noaker from Eversley, 84 from 94. John Morley just holding on at the line from Tyler Maxson. Slightly stymied by the GT4 cars. Whew.
83 car shouldn't have been there. It took an improper way. It took the wave around.
Oh, you kidding me?
Cars and should have come into the penalties and didn't.
And that's cost John Morley the win.
Potentially, certainly.
Yeah.
But the Hondas are fast, no question about it. But well, hats off here to Robert Noaker and Brian Henderson, because they've been super fast all the way through this season. That car has been on pole for 4 of the 5 races. Their best result was last week, a 4th place finish. So a very, very well-deserved victory for Brian Henderson and Robert Noaker. Ryan Everson will extend his championship lead, but what a performance that was from BMW. An absolute clinic there. Clearly rain falling on this final lap. The last lap time was 1:59, so 4 seconds away from what they had been turning. The rain is coming down now, I think. But what a great performance that was. That was pure class from Bill Oberlin.
If you look up pure class in a racing dictionary, there is a picture of Bill Oberlin smiling back at you. Jeremy Shaw describing it perfectly as Bill Oberlin, and I mean, he just delivers. Bill Oberlin delivers again Dylan McIvern, let's not forget, Dylan had to start that car, and he did, and he put it in position. And the Turner Motorsport team turned that car around with perfect precision in the pit stops. They went longer than everyone else. The strategy from Will Turner on the pit wall was absolutely wonderful. This is a team game. That was a team win, and it's another win for Turner Motorsport. They take the Sahlen's 120 at the Glen in some style. Great stuff, Jeremy. That is a proper team win. Very impressed indeed.
Yeah, a great race all the way around there. It really has been one of the best races we've seen. It was a slow start, obviously, and that caution at the end, it really didn't mess up the race. In fact, it made it more exciting. I think the number 95 car might have been struggling to get to the end on fuel, potentially without that final caution period. So I think it made sure we had that race at the end. And what a battle it was. Jan Heylen had to settle for second place, but still a great result for him and Ryan Hardwick. They'll be thrilled with that. And the best result of the season, the first podium of the year for the Plum brothers and TGM Chevrolet. Behind them, Indy Doncher, Robbie Foley. Spencer Pigot, a great last lap for the Mia McLaren, made up 2 positions. He managed to get past not only the number 8 car of Andrew Davis, but also Trent Inman on that final lap. So a great last lap for the McLaren. So the top positions, a BMW, Porsche, Chevrolet, Mercedes, then a second BMW, then a McLaren, an Aston Martin, an Audi, a Toyota, and a Ford. That's 9 different manufacturers in a top 10.
Let's go to Victory Circle and to Brian Henderson, who's joining us now in this VP Racing Pit and Paddock Report. Brian, congratulations. What a win. What a win for the 84 car.
Way to go, big man.
Oh, man, the car drove great all race. It was a great race for Honda. Got really hairy at the end for us, but we came away with the win. And first IMSA win for me and Robert. It was awesome. Landon guys did a great job.
Am I right in saying that John Morley got past you there on the restart, and you guys had to fight back and actually retake the lead?
Yep, that was when Robert was in the car right there at the end. Morley got past him, and Robert got him back on the outside, got around a couple of GS lap cars, and got us back into the lead, so he definitely had to fight for it.
How important is that for you and for the championship, Brian?
Oh man, it's insane. We've been struggling at the beginning of this year, and if we can keep this up, we'll still have a shot at that championship. So that's what we're looking for going forward from here, for sure. But huge.
And a 1-2 for Atlanta Speedworks. I suggest there might be a bit of a party this evening amongst you guys, with Ryan bringing the 94 home in second.
Oh yeah, definitely. The first time having both cars on the podium. Ryan's headed off to do that NASCAR Cup race tomorrow, so we're definitely going to be partying.
Yeah, and you'll be watching him in on the TV as well. Listen, give our best to the team. Super event, great win for you guys. Somehow it always seems a bit sweeter when you've had to fight so hard for it, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, definitely. Appreciate it.
Cheers, good stuff. Best to Ryan Nowick as well for Atlanta Speedworks 1 and 2 in TCR, with Ryan Eversley coming through in second place, as we mentioned there, in the 94 car that he shares with Scott Smithson, who drove really well in the first part of the race. Brian Henderson joining us live on that VP Racing Fuel Pit and Paddock Report. They're heading off to enjoy the events of the Podium and the Sahlen's 120 at the Glen. Jeremy's been doing a little bit of addition, and after the arithmetic, Jeremy, you can tell us what?
Yeah, we have new championship leaders. Bill Oberlin and Dylan McIvern will go from 50 points behind Kuno Whitmer into the lead on 1390 points. Be 110 clear of Sheena Monk and Spencer Pigot, who will now move up into second position. Third will be Robbie Foley and Vin Barletta, the second of the Turner BMWs, on 1260, so 20 points behind the MIA McLaren. And then down into fourth, 10 points behind behind them, or 1 point in old money, Kuno Whitmer, the previous leader in the AWA McLaren, and 10 points behind him is Jan Halen in the Porsche. So the top 5 cars covered by 150 points, which is not nearly as much as it sounds.
No, indeed not. And in the other class?
In the other class, Ryan Eversley will extend his championship lead with that second place finish today. It was 90 points that he held the lead over Taylor Hagler and Michael Lewis. It'll now be 70 points, so 1530 to 1460. Parker Chase will remain in third position on 1330. And Gavin Ernstone and John Morley will move ahead of Michael Johnson and Stephen Simpson into fourth.
Our Michelin Pilot moments of the race to come in just a moment. I'm going to throw the Roadshagger Racing Audi in there. They did lead the race. Ultimately, they didn't win it. It's not always about winning the moments of the race. But John Morley took the opportunities and got the pass around. That's why we have pass arounds. Great restart from him. And how about that battle at the front of the field as well? Remember that 61 qualified ninth. And came up to third, so they're going to get a moment of the race, the 61 in the TCR category, and we're just looking at Spencer Piggott, the motorsport in action, the Mia Motorsport. They took 2 tyres. That was their gamble at the end. That was the Michelin Pilot Motorsport. Michelin Pilot moment of the race in GS, and enabled Spencer Piggott to make up 2 places at the end, which ultimately might be important for the whole championship. So the number 3 Mia McLaren wins in GS for that pit strategy at the end to get them further up the field, and the race performance by both Gavin Ernstone and John Morley for the 61 Roadshagger Racing Audi in the TCR category. Final word from you, Jeremy, on the Sahlen's 120 at the Glen. Once again, Michelin Pilot Challenge has delivered.
I'll keep it brief if you don't mind. Brilliant motor race. Not really much more needs to be said, was it? Absolutely fantastic. Thank goodness we were able to get the race in without a major downpour, and that was just excitement from once we got going all the way through the finish. Fabulous motor race.
Thank you to our VP Racing Fuel Pit and Paddock reporter Shea Adam. Jeremy Shaw joined me, John Hindhaugh, in the Haggerty Global Broadcast Centre. We'll take a wee breather, hand the PA at Watkins Glen International over to the presentations at the end of the Sahlen's 120 at the Glen, and we'll be back for the Michelin Countdown to Green for the second of our live races on Fast Friday. It's the WeatherTech 240 when we come back here on IMSA Radio and IMSA TV. Bye for now.